the lack of Vedantic teachings that you explained that some of the foreign countries probably are more exposed to or probably read more about it, but when we went through school, I think nobody actually even mentioned the word Vedanta. And it's only afterwards that we got exposed to it. So is something being changed now to inculcate that in our curriculum or in the
Where?
schools?
Here or there?
In India. To enrich us of our own culture so that what we are trying to learn now at this age, that could come through at a younger age across the whole population. I mean, when you went across the whole India.
I think that there are some attempts being made, but that's not enough. I would suggest that a subject like Vedanta or even scripture, teachings like the Gita and Upanishad should be introduced, at least the students in the smaller classes should be exposed to it. And if they have to be exposed to it, it should be considered non-denominational. We needn't associate it with any religion. These are universal teaching. It's nothing. It so happens that what we call the Hindu's dharma, the Hindu system of thought, originated from this. So it appears as if it is only associated. It is not. It's a universal teaching. It so happens in those days the language was Sanskrit. So it's written in Sanskrit. Now when you say Sanskrit, doesn't mean immediately that it becomes a denomination. Kalidasa wrote only plays in Sanskrit. He didn't write any religion. Would you not appreciate the drama of Kalidasa? It's an ancient language. So therefore, two things are required. You shouldn't force it, of course. It should not be compulsory. But wherever students are willing, like in foreign universities, Berlin has 2 chairs for Sanskrit. And both the chairs are chaired by Berliners. So Sanskrit should be introduced, first step. Not forced. I mean, give it optional. Those who want to study Sanskrit as a language may study. In our school, in a small way, we have a boarding school called the People Grove School. It's close to Tirupati in the south. And it's called People Grove because, please, I'm not advertising for the school. It's called People Grove because there are many people trees there. Ashwatha trees. And grove is Vana, Grove, grove. So it's an ISC, ICSE school, Delhi board, what was once upon a time senior Cambridge. We have optional Sanskrit. You will be surprised. 88% of the kids from class 4 to class 12 opt for Sanskrit. Why? Because we have found a way of making them interested. Because we say, don't bring grammar into the picture. Sanskrit grammar is the most complicated. After German grammar, I think it's the most difficult. So I said, start with spoken Sanskrit. Very sweet, it's beautiful. And then move. So I personally went and recruited teachers who not only knew grammar but could do spoken Sanskrit. With the result now that you go and see a student. So are you 8th standard? Yes. Are you studying are you optional? Have you taken Sanskrit? Yes. What's your name? You'll be surprised. George. George has not changed his religion, but is interested in Sanskrit. This is the way it can be done. And then automatically, when you study Sanskrit, the study of Vedanta, everything will come into the picture. I think if the government decides to do this in the curriculum, they should keep it optional. Otherwise, particularly the present government, if they introduce it as a compulsory subject, there will be a big uproar. This is like pushing something down the throat. So it should be optional. But I keep appealing to the government that please at least introduce it in the curriculum as an optional subject. Let it be optional. It will help a lot. Then we won't have this problem. Later on in your life, Even if you abandon it after some time because you wanted to be a doctor or engineer, it will be there somewhere, and then when you start later on you can study. So that if I say Vedanta and say nonsense, you can say this is not Vedanta. The problem is we don't know. Sir.
We have a question there.
Shall we ask the young lady to ask?
Thank you so much for everything that you've spoken about so far. There's a lot of literature and people in general who speak about humans being inherently selfish and looking out for themselves.
The selfish gene.
Yeah. You were talking about seva and selfless service. I was wondering what you felt was the best way to sort of balance those internal needs that you have, as well as trying to give back and as much as you can as well.
You know, there is no denying the fact that we are selfish. Not shellfish, but selfish. However, the expansion of consciousness in evolution is when we become less selfish. There's the difference between a developed human being and a non-developed human being. A non-developed human being is only like an animal. He wants only for himself food, a sex, have kids, die, go, finished. But there are some who say, no, there might be very serious aspects in life. So this is called evolution. So I think while we need to look after ourselves, we should also try and look after others as much as possible. You can't give an incentive for this. It has to be satisfying to our hearts to do that, so that it has to come from inside. But once you start doing it, you will realize that when you see a smile on a face that was crying for the last 2 years, something happens to your heart. You want to repeat it again. I have seen this happen. You want to repeat it again. So I am saying, even if you feel selfish in the beginning, go into it and see how other human beings affect your minds, your hearts, and then slowly you will begin to melt. You can't help it. I think that's one way of doing it. Especially, and it should start at an young age. You're perfectly all right to start it. So please start something. Do some. You don't have to have an organization and go about doing it. You just look after somebody in your neighborhood. It can start like that. All I'm saying is spread out a bit. Don't just be caught in oneself. Open up. Yes, sir.
Just please stay away from the speaker. Thanks.
Namaskar. My name is Saurabh. Is it truly a divine plan for our redemption? Yogananji wrote about it. He talked about Sri Guru Nathal Babaji being at the peak of some sort of spiritual hierarchy that truly runs the world. In this day and age where there are 50,000 nuclear weapons, the world seems to be an hour's madness away from being completely annihilated. Is there truly a divine plan?
The divine, I think we should for the time being forget about the divine plan and plan ourselves. Whether there is a divine plan or not, let's not worry about that. Let's see what I can do. Yogananda Paramahamsa must have written about it. It may be so, it may not be so, we don't know. Let's leave it at that. Let's say that, can I do something about it? See, what happens is, if I think this is right or this is wrong, maybe there is a divine plan, maybe there is no divine plan, then I refuse to move. I don't do the work. So leave it, dump that for a while. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, okay? Dump it for a while and see what can I do as an individual. If this is done, one individual changes, I think the world can change. Just like one Hitler could create so much trouble. One Hitler could make people so armed to the teeth. In the same way, one good person can change it. Now, we should all contribute to it in some way. That's what I think.
One more.
First of all, thank you very much for wonderful exposition for a simple person like me. Done in such beautiful way that I'm overwhelmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
You put your finger on the thing when you said that we need to, in schools, inculcate among students the basic knowledge of what Hinduism teaches, and that's what you're here talking about.
Not only here, sir, I go all over the world.
But could I go one step further and say we live in a Christian country here,
Yes,
and we are trying to make this into a cultural, religious melting pot.
yes,
And to some extent, the Australians have succeeded.
yes.
So with that in the background, perhaps should we not, and you have gone through this wonderful path of, Sufism, Hinduism, I'm sure you know Christianity. So there are lots of wonderful, deep philosophical things, trends within each of these religions.
Absolutely.
And should they not be combined together for the younger student, including of course Vedanta and so on, so that for us especially in here and in India, because
Yes,
it's the first country, that might be the way to go rather than just concentrate on one particular aspect.
I agree with you. I understand the question. I don't agree. I understand the question. But I think if one goes deep into subjects like Vedanta and studies Sanskrit, you might think that would make one a little narrow. It will not. According to me, that will make us wider and make us study other religions. I think so, personally, because you will suddenly realize that, oh, this is so wide, so there must be other branches to it. Now take Christianity. When did the church come? 100 years after Jesus Christ, as an organization. Now look at the personality of Jesus Christ as presented in the Gospels. We don't know anything other than that. He was a quintessential wanderer, whom in India he would have been called a parivrajak, who himself confesses, saying, the snakes have holes and the foxes have dens, but the Son of Man has no way to lay his head. And look at the teachings. Lay treasures in your heart, where thieves do not break in and steal. This is the heart I am talking about. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. What are these things? These are universal teachings. But now they have stratified into an organization, the religion. So if we can make people understand that here are the core teachings, look towards it. Don't get caught up too much. Organizations are required. From functioning organizations are required. We can't deny it. Now, if it was not organized, how would I be sitting here and talking? But then, when the outward structure becomes more important than the inner core, we run into trouble. So, while we organize, we should keep that in mind, that the inner core is not disturbed. It's not stratified and covered. There's a story which was told by Krishnamurti about the devil and his friend who went for a walk. The devil and his very close friend went for a walk. Now the thing is, in India we don't have such a concept of a pure devil and a pure God. It is all mixed up. Some good asuras are there and some terrible devas are there. That line between black and white, Satan and God is not defined. I mean, there is nothing like that. So anyway, but there it is in the Semitic religions, it's defined. So Satan and his close friend went for a walk. So Satan bent down and picked up something from the grass, from the lawn, and put it in his pocket. So his friend asked him, what did you pick up just now? So Satan said, I just picked up the truth. Truth. T-R-U-T-H. So his friend said to him, if you picked up the truth, your days are numbered. Because Satan is the opposite of truth. He is untruth, and darkness and everything. So if you have picked up the truth, then your days are numbered, watch out. So the devil smiled and tapped him on his shoulders and said, don't worry friend, I'll organize it. So have to be a little careful on this matter.